Heupel's part of the Heupel law firm, and he runs Colorado Bankruptcy Help. Kevin, we're talking about bankruptcy. There's something I want to talk about right up front first, because I found this out. Somebody said the other day on my radio show, well, I can't go bankrupt because I might get fired. Talk about, they can't discriminate against you based on bankruptcy.
It's in the bankruptcy code. You cannot lose your job because you filed bankruptcy.
Really?
Now, there are some jobs where bankruptcy can be an issue.
Like what?
If you're an insurance agent trying to get a Series 6 license.
Right, okay.
But the ironic thing is, if you're an insurance agent and you already have it and you file bankruptcy, no problem. It's when you want to get it the first time.
So people can't fire you for going bankrupt?
No, not at all.
They can't say, well, I don't want someone who filed a bankruptcy around here. Talk about bankruptcy. I asked you, so is it leveling out? Is it slowing down a little? And you said no.
No, it's increasing. And, I think your earlier, Bill hit it right on.
Bill Bronchick from the Association
A lot of
of Real
people
Estate
got into the rental market way too late. And these are still my current clients. They went out and they bought 1, 2, 3, 5 rental properties. 80-20 loans, stated income.
Yes.
Real estate markets collapsed.
Right.
Rental income has dropped. They can no longer afford to make these mortgage payments on properties that are underwater. And if you look at it as a business decision, it's best to cut your losses, get out of it, and bankruptcy will allow you to do it. And if you have some properties that are kind of borderline, you want to keep them, a lot of times in bankruptcy you can keep them. So there is flexibility. I've had a client who came in, had 5 properties, wanted to keep 2 of them, and bankruptcy afforded him that option.
What about homes that you live in? Can you keep your home?
Always, but you have to make the payments, and that's the key. And you have to have less than $60,000 or $90,000 of equity, depending on your age.
Yeah, because if you have a lot of equity, they can ask you to sell it, but very seldom does that happen in this market.
Yeah, in this market, equity is not an issue.
So people come in, they own a home, they want to keep it, but you still recommend with a Chapter 7 that they put it in the bankruptcy. Explain why.
Well, you don't have a choice. I mean, any debt you have to list it in your bankruptcy petition.
Well, I guess what I was saying is they don't reaffirm it.
Yeah, you don't want to reaffirm it.
Why is it?
Because then you're stuck on the loan. And let's say things get worse. You know, people think, oh, when I file bankruptcy, it can't get any worse. It can.
Yeah.
And if it does get worse and you reaffirm the mortgage, now you're stuck on it. Whereas before...
So if you don't affirm it, you can still live there, possibly.
Right. As long as you make the payment, you can always keep the mortgage.
Right.
But if things don't work out and you have to walk away, you can.
So even if you... Okay, let's say that you don't affirm the loan, so the lender watches you, you're making payments, so the lender says, you know what, he's making his payments, I'm not going to take the house, even though he went bankrupt. 2 years down the road, you get into trouble or you can't make those payments. You walk away 2 years later, does that bankruptcy cover you on that deficiency?
Absolutely, provided you have not refinanced it.
Really?
And loan modifications don't count. So a lot of my clients, they say, look, file the bankruptcy, clear your credit, then do the loan mod. And they're having success with that because now they've gotten rid of all the debt, bringing them down. But they are still protected. If 2 years comes by and they lose their job and they can't keep the house, they don't have to worry about the mortgage company coming after them to sue them for the deficiency.
That's a very good point, that they can get away from that deficiency even years down the road. But some of them, of course, rebound because of the bankruptcy, keep the house and move on, right?
Most of them do.
Okay.
80-90% of people rebound, keep their home. It's not an issue.
Most people do 7 or 13.
7.
That's a complete liquidation. They call it that, but explain how it's not really a complete liquidation.
Yeah, I mean, everything's, oh, I'm going to lose my house, I'm going to lose all my
car,
stuff.
my art, my jewelry, my clothes.
Yeah,
Well, explain what are called the deductions or the allowances.
Yeah, we call them exemptions.
Exemptions,
You
okay,
know,
that's the word.
And we mentioned, $60,000 of equity in your home.
Yeah.
$5,000 of equity in your car. It goes up to 10 if you're married.
And who has that anyway, right?
Most people don't.
Right.
Your furniture, you get to keep that, your clothing,
They just don't want
jewelry.
you keeping a Ferrari that's paid off or something that's extravagant.
Retirement accounts are completely protected. So like you said earlier, if you're thinking about touching your retirement, call me. Because that is something you can protect in the bankruptcy.
Yeah, so some people, they take out their 401k or their retirement to pay a credit card. And that credit card's unsecured. They've ruined their protected money.
Right.
And then they end up going bankrupt anyway.
That's the worst. I mean, if you're going to take your money out of your retirement, make sure you can pay every credit card out there. Or don't do it. Because if you pay one and then you're coming in to see me, the one you paid was a waste of money.
Because and by the way, we can take calls. We're taking calls on real estate, aimhomes.net at our help center. We also have a question now at 303 Martino, and Tim is on the line for Kevin Heipel. Kim, what's happening?
Hi. I had a quick question. If you file a Chapter 7
Yes.
and your mortgage is included on it and
Yes.
you let the house go in the bankruptcy, can they give you a 1099 on that?
Okay, that's a good question. In a 7, let's say they don't keep the house, they let it go, they take the house back, she's forgiven that debt. Can they give her a 1099 and call that income?
No, absolutely not. It's in the tax code that any debt that is discharged is non-taxable. And it's funny because this year there's been a lot of that with these mortgage companies issuing 1099s. And what you do if you get one, you fill out a form. I think it's a 4598. I'm not sure of the form.
There is a form.
But you just check discharge Title 11 case, attach it to your tax return, and you're covered.
So in a bankruptcy, you're considered insolvent. The trustee has deemed you insolvent. The judge has deemed you insolvent. And when you are insolvent, meaning bills exceed your assets, you do not have earned income or unearned income on relief of debt. Even if you didn't go bankrupt, Kevin, even if you don't go bankrupt and you're forgiven a debt, if you can show you're pretty much insolvent, you get out of it too.
That's correct. Insolvency is another avenue.
Okay.